morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today, a jam-packed one, lots to get to, including a lot of political news, obviously, as we are now just 2 weeks away from Election Day. Polling guru Nate Silver still has the race at a 50-50. Silver writes for the New York Times, quote, in an election where the 7 battleground states are all polling within a percentage point or two, 50-50 is the only responsible forecast. Silver adds that his personal gut is saying Donald Trump, but he warns that his gut shouldn't be trusted more than anyone else's. Meanwhile, in a blow to Harris, the owner of the Los Angeles Times has blocked the paper from endorsing a candidate for president. That's according to Semaphore. A sharp change for the LA paper that has endorsed Democratic candidates in every presidential race since it first endorsed Obama in 2008. But Harris is getting the support of someone very important, Bill Gates. The New York Times reports that Gates recently donated about $50 million to a nonprofit organization that is supporting Harris. That donation was not meant to be made public. It was through a dark money group that doesn't have to disclose its donors, and Gates has not publicly endorsed Harris. In a statement responding to the reporting, Gates did not explicitly address the donation as an endorsement, but said, quote, this election is different.
So in other election news, former President Trump's previous resistance to early voting has seemingly been reversed. Trump is now demanding easier early voting access in North Carolina and urging voters to send their ballots early and by mail. And while Harris took the day off from campaign rallies yesterday, she deployed former President Obama and rapper Eminem to fill in. But it wasn't Eminem who was doing the rapping. Let's watch.
Now I notice my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, vomit on my sweater already, mom's spaghetti. I'm nervous, but on the surface I look calm and ready to drop bombs, but I keep on forgetting.
Trump responded to Obama's campaign events by calling him, quote, a jerk, and saying he looked exhausted.
I'm no fan of Barack Obama. I would not say he looked exhausted. I actually think he always brings much more energy and excitement when he speaks than basically anyone else in the Democratic Party. Democrats probably wish they could run Obama for a third term rather than Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. I mean, that's just the reality. You don't have to like him or agree with him, but he's a more effective surrogate for the Kamala campaign than almost anyone else, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think Barack Obama is the best campaigner of my lifetime, certainly in the 20 years I've been covering politics here. Now, people will agree or disagree with his policies. That's a completely different subject. But in terms of revving up a crowd, in terms of making his appeal to not only the Democratic base, but voters in, somewhat of the center ground, he's incredibly effective. The rapping thing, I'm not going to get too worked up one way or another about that. He did his thing there. It was fine. It gets headlines, it gets attention, it makes things a little bit more fresh.
As a Detroit native myself, I am a fan of Eminem and Eminem
Absolutely.
music very much. Okay, I wanted to talk about this Bill Gates involvement because a lot of our viewers have interest in Bill Gates' advocacy, how he spends his money, his widespread support for public health initiatives and all that. So he did give $50 million, not chump change, to Kamala Harris through this, because we were talking about dark money, and Josh Shapiro made that complaint about Elon Musk, and it's kind of just nebulous and, ooh, dark, sounds bad, sounds evil, but
nefarious.
Bill Gates is doing the same thing, billionaires are doing the same thing. Everybody, both sides have rich, wealthy, well-connected people who want different policies supporting their candidates, and that's how he's going to spend his money, fine, but people should be aware of it.
Yeah, people should be aware of it. I mean, I think that in an ideal world, you wouldn't have people spending $50 million or $75 million on elections. And my whole argument about that is people say, well, it's a matter of free speech, it's a matter of them making their voice heard. But if you can spend $50 million or $75 million, your voice, to my mind, gets amplified to a degree that other more regular and less affluent citizens' voices get drowned out. Whether that's Bill Gates or Elon Musk is kind of beside the point. I understand that it is within the law for him to, Gates or Musk or anyone else, to give that amount of money. My concern about it is that it simply swamps out people who don't have those resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it can have that effect. I'm just a little bit skeptical of, I sometimes think the importance of money for advocacy and awareness in terms of campaigning can be overstated. Not to say that money is not important for lobbying and all, business interests or labor interests or whatever it is can buy influence. Certainly that happens. All the money in the world can't help a bad candidate. The candidates get so much free media attention. Donald Trump is not turning away checks from wealthy people giving him money, but it's not like Donald Trump is not going to be able to get his message out without a check from a wealthy person. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And I do take your point about campaigns. We have seen over the years people spend millions, tens of millions sometimes, and lose.
It's not like the person who spends more wins every time. It's not.
It's not. I mean, it's going back. I think when Meg Whitman ran for governor of California, she spent some vast sum of money from her own personal wealth and lost quite heavily. And so this is a pattern that has been the case for a long time. I guess my argument is less about does this mean you win or lose elections, which is debatable, and more like do individuals who spend that amount of money by the nature of their wealth have outsized influence in political and civic debates generally, and I would argue that the answer to that is clearly yes.
Bill Gates has had an outsized role in a lot of our policy over the years. I quibbled with a lot of his kind of COVID guidance, although I'm for people taking the vaccines if they want to take them. I'm not for mandatory vaccination as he was. Someone who did have who has a weird level of influence on public policy, given how tied he was to Jeffrey Epstein and all of those things. That was something that horrified his wife, who's now his ex-wife, Melinda Gates.
I'm not actually expert on that, so educate me. I know there are photos of him with Epstein, but what is the connection?
They continued to have ties even after the initial arrest. And that is just why would you still be associating with this figure? I guess that's neither here nor there from his policy agenda necessarily.
But the kind of Prince Andrew problem, basically, he stayed friends with Epstein after it was known.
Bad judgment, very bad judgment. So at top of the block, we talked about how it is a 50-50. I read Nate Silver, who I always is the person I kind of most trust on the state of the race. He had a good op-ed in the New York Times today about why he does think it's 50-50, and pointing out that people keep asking him to say, well, who do you think is going to win? And he's like, it's just a guess. It's based on nothing. If it's 50-50, that means you flip a coin.
Exactly.
Either of them could win. Yeah. No one can say, oh my God, I can't believe Harris won. Oh my God, I can't believe Trump won. Either of them could win. It's as close as it could possibly be. Last election was close. The election before that one was close. And this one, it might be even closer than those two.
100%. And also around this time, you get people who are trying to frankly boost their own profile or clout by making a guess and purporting to be certain, oh, it's definitely going to be Trump, it's definitely going to be Harris, hoping that that is proven right by subsequent events and then that they will become a guru in their own mind. But I mean, it really is a guess at this point.
It's a very weird phenomenon that I've noticed more prominently recently, that Republicans, Trump, et cetera, want to say that they're ahead, and Democrats, Harris, et cetera, also want to say that Republicans are ahead. I don't know, both sides seems to prefer the narrative that Trump is winning, Republicans are winning. Democrats do that in order to, turn out to, you got to donate right now, the sky is falling, apocalypse now, it's so bad, and Republicans, I guess, also like that framing for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Republicans think it sort of buoys up their supporters. It's like, we're going to be on the winning trade and go out and do this. I do find it odd that Harris keeps talking about being the underdog because, firstly, I think that is maybe increasingly true, so I'm not sure what it does. But also, it's not as if Democrats are complacent anyway. A lot of Democrats who I speak to are very, very worried about the state of the race. So I'm not sure how much anxiety or how much greater anxiety she can foster there, but she's trying to anyway.
Her supporters are some of the most anxious people on the planet, I think.
Certainly, right now they are for sure.
Certainly agree with that. All right, coming up next, what is the state of Latino voters? What's on their minds as we head into this election? We're going to talk about that. More Rising. Stay tuned.